Imagine this: what if I told you that our brains might be wired to connect with something greater, something transcendent? Picture yourself diving deep into the neural circuitry of your mind, exploring the intricate connections and pathways, and suddenly you stumble upon a revelation, one that could forever change how you see yourself, others, and even the concept of divinity. In this video, we're going to uncover a remarkable pathway, possibly the pathway that neuroscience is revealing, one that might lead us to an understanding of God. Now, as we explore this journey, we're not talking about religious rituals or doctrine here. We're talking about hard science. Neuroscience, the study of the brain and nervous system, is beginning to reveal things that go far beyond our basic understanding of neurons and synapses. As we'll see, these revelations touch on something profoundly spiritual and deeply personal, a search for meaning, connection, and maybe, just maybe, for God. To begin, let's ask ourselves a seemingly simple question: what is consciousness? When you think about who you are, your sense of self and awareness, what comes to mind? Consciousness is one of the biggest mysteries in neuroscience. It's the puzzle that scientists, philosophers, and even theologians have been trying to solve for centuries. Think about it: how does a network of cells, neurons firing off in response to signals, give rise to emotions, memories, and even self-awareness? In recent years, neuroscientists have made groundbreaking discoveries about brain development, neuroplasticity, or the brain's ability to rewire itself, and the role of neurotransmitters like dopamine in shaping our sense of purpose and fulfillment. The more we understand these processes, the more awe-inspiring the brain becomes. When we look at the complexity of this organ, it's easy to start asking bigger questions, questions that take us beyond what can be seen under a microscope. Some scientists, even those who don't necessarily subscribe to any specific religion, are moved by the beauty and complexity of the brain to believe that something more might be at play.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
But let's dig a little deeper. One key area of the brain that neuroscientists have been studying closely is the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain that's responsible for complex decision-making, moral judgments, and self-control. Interestingly, it's also highly active when people engage in practices like meditation, prayer, or contemplation. Studies have shown that regular meditation can actually change the structure and function of the prefrontal cortex, making it more resilient and capable of experiencing positive emotions. This part of our brain, in a sense, may be our spiritual hub. So here's the first deep question: if our brains are wired to experience spirituality, does that mean our desire to connect with something greater is just a product of evolution? Or could it be that our brains have developed this way because there's truly something out there worth connecting to? Hold that thought, because we're going to circle back to it. Welcome back. So, you're probably wondering about this God spot I mentioned. Well, here's the fascinating part: scientists have found that there are specific areas in our brain that light up when we have spiritual or transcendent experiences. One of the most intriguing regions involved in these experiences is the parietal lobe, which is thought to play a role in our sense of self and our spatial awareness. When people meditate deeply or engage in intense spiritual practices, the activity in this area often decreases. Some scientists believe this change in brain activity may be what gives people a sense of unity or oneness with the universe, an experience that many describe as deeply spiritual. Another region that gets activated is the temporal lobe. Certain forms of epilepsy, that affect the temporal lobe have been known to produce intense religious experiences in individuals, leading them to feel as though they've encountered a divine presence. This has led researchers to wonder, are these experiences just neurological anomalies, or are they glimpses into something greater, facilitated by our brain's natural wiring? Now, you might be asking yourself, does this mean that all spiritual experiences can be boiled down to brain activity? Here's where it gets interesting. Some scientists argue that while our brains may be capable of producing these experiences, it doesn't necessarily disprove the existence of a higher power. Think about it like this: just because your brain has receptors for oxygen, it doesn't mean oxygen doesn't exist. Similarly, just because our brain has the capacity for spiritual experiences doesn't mean those experiences aren't real. Consider dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter, which plays a huge role in motivation and pleasure. When people engage in acts of compassion or help others, dopamine levels increase, creating a sense of satisfaction and purpose. This has led some to wonder if our brain's reward system might be designed to encourage us to seek connections with others, and maybe even with something beyond ourselves. So here's the big question: are these God spot experiences just an evolutionary trick, or are they evidence of something more? Think about it. If our brains have evolved to seek out these experiences, does that suggest that our ancestors were onto something? Could the pursuit of the divine be a natural part of who we are as humans? All right, now we've reached the most important part of our journey. So far, we've talked about the science of spirituality, but what if you could actually experience it for yourself? In this part, we're going to discuss some practical ways you can tap into your brain's pathway to God, or whatever you believe is greater than you. One of the most effective methods to stimulate these parts of the brain is through meditation. Research has shown that meditation can enhance activity in areas of the brain associated with compassion, self-control, and emotional regulation. When practiced regularly, meditation can actually reshape your brain, making it easier for you to experience positive emotions and even feelings of transcendence. Start with just a few minutes each day. Focus on your breathing, quiet your mind, and pay attention to the sensations in your body. Over time, you'll notice a greater sense of peace and maybe even a feeling of connectedness with the universe. Another technique to consider is gratitude journaling. Neuroscientists have found that focusing on gratitude can activate the brain's reward pathways, increasing dopamine and enhancing our mood. Try writing down 3 things you're grateful for every day. This simple practice has been shown to improve overall well-being and can even increase your sense of purpose. And here's something you might not expect: acts of kindness. Engaging in selfless acts not only makes you feel good, but also activates the same pathways in the brain associated with spiritual experiences. This is why many people report feeling a warm glow after helping others. It's as if our brains are wired to reward us for kindness, pushing us toward a more connected, compassionate state of being. So let's end with one final question, one that I hope you'll carry with you after watching this video. If our brains are designed to seek out these experiences, if we're naturally drawn to compassion, gratitude, and a sense of purpose, could it be that we are wired for something greater than ourselves? Could it be that this pathway to God is real, something we're meant to explore and embrace? Thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, the next time you're seeking peace or purpose, look within. You might just find a pathway that's been there all along, waiting for you to discover it. Imagine you take these practices seriously, not just as activities but as gateways into deeper experiences of life. Over time, as you cultivate habits like meditation, gratitude, and kindness, something profound happens. You start feeling a shift in your consciousness, a realignment of how you perceive yourself and the world around you. Neuroscience tells us that these practices strengthen certain areas of the brain, making you not only calmer and more resilient, but also more open to those feelings of unity and interconnectedness we discussed earlier. This is where the pathway to God, or a higher reality, if you prefer, becomes more than just a metaphor. Science and spirituality often appear to be on opposite ends of the spectrum, but the truth might be that they are both pointing toward the same mystery from different angles. For centuries, mystics, monks, and meditators have claimed that the path to enlightenment or divine connection lies within. Today, neuroscience seems to echo their words, revealing that our brains are naturally inclined toward practices that open us to experiences of the divine, or at least to feelings that transcend ordinary reality. So what's next? If you're interested in exploring this pathway further, think of it as a journey rather than a destination. Each time you meditate, practice gratitude, or engage in acts of compassion, you're stepping a little further along this pathway. You're not just changing your brain, you're opening your mind and heart to deeper dimensions of life. And here's an exercise to try the next time you feel a sense of awe or wonder, whether it's looking at a sunset, listening to beautiful music, or feeling the warmth of someone's kindness. Pause. Let yourself fully experience that moment. Allow it to resonate within you and try to tune into what your mind and body are feeling. This simple act of being present is a way of grounding yourself in the here and now, while also opening yourself to something beyond the ordinary. As we conclude, let's go back to that initial question: are we wired to experience God or something beyond ourselves? Neuroscience can provide clues and open doors, but it doesn't have all the answers. Perhaps the only way to know for sure is to experience it yourself. To walk this path, engage your mind, explore these practices, and see where they lead. Maybe, just maybe, you'll find that the pathway to God is as real as any other journey you've taken, and that it's been waiting within you all along. As you continue down this path, let's consider another intriguing idea: the concept of surrender. Throughout many spiritual traditions, there is an emphasis on letting go, on surrendering control, releasing attachment, and embracing uncertainty. But what does this actually do to our brains? Neuroscientists studying states of surrender or ego dissolution have found that when we let go of our rigid sense of self, specific networks in our brain associated with self-referencing and control actually quiet down. In moments of surrender, we step away from the constant mental chatter, the endless to-do lists, and the cycle of worries that often fill our minds. This mental stillness can allow us to touch something more profound, something beyond the self. Whether through deep meditation, mindful breathing, or simply moments of quiet contemplation, practices of letting go can help us experience a connection to something greater than ourselves. This is often described as a feeling of profound peace, acceptance, or unity, a moment when the boundaries between self and other begin to blur. So how do you cultivate this sense of surrender in a practical way? Start small. Begin by setting aside a few moments each day to simply sit quietly. Focus on your breath and notice the urge to plan, analyze, or control. Instead of following those urges, just observe them. Let them rise and fall like waves. In doing this, you're training your brain to let go of the need to constantly grasp for control, creating space for something deeper to emerge. Another powerful method for experiencing surrender is through nature. Take a walk in a forest, sit by the ocean, or gaze at the night sky. Allow yourself to feel small in the face of the vastness around you. Nature has a unique way of grounding us while also expanding our sense of self. It helps us recognize that we're a part of a much larger whole. In moments like these, the brain's default mode network, the part of us that's constantly thinking about ourselves, naturally quiets down. This quieting creates space for awe, wonder, and that elusive feeling of oneness. This brings us to one of the most remarkable findings in neuroscience, the power of awe. Research has shown that experiencing awe shifts our focus away from ourselves and toward the bigger picture, enhancing feelings of connectedness and meaning. And the more frequently we experience awe, the more we strengthen this pathway. It's as if awe acts as a kind of bridge between the ordinary and the extraordinary, leading us closer to that sense of divine connection. Here's a practice to try: seek out awe-inspiring experiences. Watch a documentary about the cosmos, read about the wonders of the natural world, listen to music that moves you, or stand under a vast, open sky. When you experience awe, let yourself fully feel it. Notice how it changes your thoughts, your emotions, and your perspective. This sensation of awe might be one of the most direct pathways we have to touch the divine. As you move forward, remember that the journey along this pathway isn't about arriving at a final destination. It's about deepening your experience of life, expanding your awareness, and opening your heart and mind to possibilities beyond what you can see or measure. Neuroscience shows us that our brains are remarkably adaptable, capable of profound change and growth. So each step you take, whether it's a moment of meditation, an act of kindness, or a feeling of awe, is strengthening this pathway, making it easier to connect to a higher reality. In the end, the pathway to God, or whatever name you give to the ultimate mystery, may not be a destination we can reach or fully understand. It might instead be a state of mind, a way of being that brings us closer to the essence of who we are. And perhaps the real miracle isn't just that this pathway exists within us, but that we have the power to walk it whenever we choose. So I'll leave you with this question: if every experience of connection, compassion, and awe brings you one step closer to a sense of divinity, what would happen if you fully embraced this pathway? How might your life, and the lives of those around you, transform if you walk this path with intention and curiosity? Remember, the journey is yours to explore. The pathway is open, waiting for you. As we draw toward the end of this exploration, consider that every step along this pathway is about discovery, discovering not only what lies beyond us, but what lies within us. Neuroscience, spirituality, and personal experience converge here in a profound way. And the key lies in how we cultivate our minds and hearts to navigate this path. One of the greatest insights we've uncovered is that our brain's ability to adapt, change, and grow, its neuroplasticity, is not just about survival or learning new skills. It's also a pathway to transformation. Every time you engage in practices of kindness, compassion, meditation, and awe, you're literally reshaping your brain. The neural circuits associated with love, empathy, and transcendence become stronger, more resilient, and easier to access. What starts as a deliberate effort eventually becomes a natural state of mind. This means that the more you walk this path, the more it becomes a part of who you are. Imagine, then, a future where more and more people are walking this path. Think about what the world might look like if we each prioritized experiences of connection, compassion, and awe over the distractions and conflicts that often consume us? Could it be that our potential for transformation extends beyond the individual and into the collective? What if, through shared efforts, we could tap into a collective consciousness, one where empathy, understanding, and peace are not just ideals but daily realities? But even as we envision this, it's essential to keep things practical. As we've seen, walking this pathway isn't about grand gestures or sudden enlightenment. It's about daily, intentional actions. It's about choosing to respond with compassion rather than anger, choosing to focus on what we're grateful for rather than what we lack, choosing to engage in practices that expand our awareness rather than limit it. Let's talk about one last technique that's especially powerful in cultivating this sense of presence and connection: mindful reflection. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to reflect on the moments that brought you closer to this pathway. Think about any moments of kindness, gratitude, or awe that you experienced. Notice how those moments made you feel. Allow yourself to be grateful for them and see if you can carry that feeling into the next day. This simple practice not only reinforces the neural pathways associated with positive emotions, but also helps you recognize the sacredness in everyday life. And as you continue this journey, embrace the idea that you're always learning. Neuroscience reveals that our brains are always adapting, always open to new experiences. No matter where you are on this pathway, there's always more to discover. Maybe you'll find new practices, meet new people, or have experiences that shift your perspective even further. The beauty of this journey is that it's infinite, a continual deepening of your understanding of yourself, others, and perhaps even the divine. So here's one last question to ponder: if the pathway to God, or a higher state of consciousness, is indeed something that we're all capable of experiencing, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you keep walking, keep seeking, keep opening your heart and mind to the possibilities beyond what you can see or touch? The choice is yours. And as you move forward, remember that every step, every act of kindness, every moment of presence is a part of this grand journey. Neuroscience has uncovered a pathway, but it's up to you to walk it. The journey is endless, and the potential for connection, compassion, and transcendence is boundless. So take the next step, and who knows? You might just find yourself closer to the divine than you ever thought possible.